Hey there guys, Spamsy Dragon here, aka Syndromes, and welcome to this little video. Look at me uploading 2 Freelancer related videos in a row. It's almost as if it's like 2014 again. So, I guess first of all I need to tell you that this is not scripted, so expect a lot of pauses and stuttering and whatever. Secondly, the video portion of this video is purely for the sake of being able to upload it on YouTube, so feel free to just put this video in the background or put it on audio as you walk around, whatever, and just listen. So, as you can already tell by the topic of today's video, it has to do with how we are going to overall present Discovery Freelancer for new players. Because with the rising popularity of GT5 roleplay servers on Twitch, this is most likely the best and let us be completely honest with ourselves, the last chance to fully advertise / promote Discovery while the concept of online game roleplay servers is still fresh in the memory of newer players. So, first of all, I need to kind of point out where this is coming from. So, somewhere earlier this year, somewhere around, I would say May, I was approached by one of the community members on Discord who started asking me about promotional stuff, this considering I got Freelancer to the front page of Imgur twice now, or it was thrice now, and he was asking if I needed some sort of screenshots or whatever to do that again. Now, I'm very sorry, but considering I really don't like random people messaging me on Discord, I did not reply. But this particular video is the result of a more recent approach by, I think it was the same person, or maybe it was someone else. I didn't know their name. And at the time of recording this video, they still haven't responded to me. So I can't really name drop them, but there you go. So the whole situation is that I think that my response to their question, how to promote Disco, was a little bit, I wouldn't say it was mean, but I think that I didn't elaborate a little bit too much because they stopped replying. So the idea is that what I said is that I honestly do not think that Discovery Freelancer is promotable as a game anymore. Like, it's way past that moment. And I know that it sounds kind of, sad or mean or dramatic, but that's what I mean. If we are going to promote Disco, if we want to keep Disco running, we kind of need to take a few steps back from the whole community, take a look at it, and figure out that perhaps we need to promote it as something else. And instead of the game aspect of the game, I think we need to start promoting the community itself. But in order to do that, things need to change a little bit. And at the time recording this video, I guess I need to point this out that all of the stuff that I'm about to say is purely my thoughts. And most importantly, and I want to stress this, like, I want you to nail this onto the frickin' door if you can, I really do not expect, even if what I say makes sense, like if someone important in Disco, like I don't even know who leads Disco right now, considering the whole coup thing. If you're currently listening to this and you're saying, oh well, that makes sense, remember that there is always a risk that implementing some very dire, sudden, and sharp changes might actually just kill it off entirely, so, be careful what you do. So, the thing is, I want to kind of make this clear. Disco has never suffered from a lack of new players. And I've said this before, it's the retention of these players that is causing the issue, or rather the lack of retention that is causing the issue. You will always attract old school gamers who remember playing Freelancer, and they might jump through all of the hoops to try out Disco, even if it is just from pure nostalgia. And again, I need to remind you that with Steam, GOG, and other launcher platforms, the very thought of sourcing an ISO file for Freelancer, then installing the mod on top of it, and in case of in the case of Windows 10, tampering with the install just to make it work is something that the average gamer is just not going to bother today in 2019. But it's not all. The thing about nostalgia is that nostalgia in general is meant to be like a snack. It's like you remember something you ate as a kid and you suddenly have this huge craving for it after seeing it in the store or something. But then one dinner later and you're like, yeah, this was nice. This was a nice memory. But it's not like you're going to start eating it every single day. Disco and other nostalgia games for that matter are pretty much the same. For example, me personally, I look at my Steam list and I see Unreal Tournament 2004 and I'm suddenly inspired to download it because I remember it so much playing it. I remember it playing every single day for hours on end. But these days, I would delete it in about a week because I got my satisfaction from remembering these old days. But even though it was a nice memory to remember, these days I have other games that I am just as equally invested in as I was in Unreal back then. Especially when it depends on tastes that might have changed and refined themselves over time. I'm sad to say, but Disco as a game, and this is in no means a jab at our modders, Disco as a game cannot compete with the game as service approach in 2019. It just can't. And this is one of my main points. Advertising Disco for old fans is inherently wrong, because we are a roleplay community that use the game as a platform first and foremost. After that, we're dealing with players whose tastes might have changed over time, and that might not be interested in Freelancer as a regular game that they can play. And even more so, we are going to be facing the same issue where a lot of players come back to Disco, for example, since this is the only active server that still offers a multiplayer environment, but they might not be interested in the whole roleplay aspect. And when people say they want to see more people on the server, they actually want more roleplay, not just players. So, again, it's kind of problematic to just advertise Disco as a game, because that is not what we actually want, and people need to realize that. But the other problem with it is that Disco is bloated. And I'm not talking about the mod. The mod itself is perfectly fine. It perfectly functions as a roleplay platform. There was never a problem with it. But the thing is, Disco is a very long-running encounter, and the amount of history-related bloat that we currently have is phenomenal. Imagine, it's like you are inviting new players to a D&D campaign, and then you're just leaving them to the side with a pile of manuals and a transcript of like 15 years plus of history on that one campaign, and you're basically telling them, join us when you figure it out. That's not how it works. And the thing is, okay, we're talking about let's help new players. The thing is, I think most people don't understand just how big of a effort, how big of a job it is to actually just double down and help new players. Like, those people who know me, they know my whole gripe with Johnny Walker, but holy hell, that guy tried. Bless his heart, he was sadly mistaken in his approaches, but he did try. He did try to introduce new players and to be this very helpful, friendly face. Ask any ex-Angel, or whatever you want to call them these days after we renamed it. Oh, okay, after I renamed it. And you will basically be saying, yes, it is a personally satisfying job, but it's still a job that you don't get paid for. And that's pretty much it. The thing is, it's nobody's job to help people, and just like that, it's nobody's job to promote Disco. I don't think that anyone remembers this now, but I did have a community contributor title made back when I was an admin, and we had like, I think it was like 12 people who joined, who were interested in advertising and promoting Discover Freelancer. They all fell off the radar. As soon as they figured out the amount of work required to do this sort of thing, it's just not within the capability of the average disco member to volunteer for something like this and carry it out as you might expect. Because at any point in time, they can use an excuse to simply stop doing it. And that's sort of the thing you kind of need to figure it out, right? So, the thing is, put down your pitchfork. It's not like I'm saying that everyone left on Disco is a toxic asswipe trying to just grab as much power over the game so they can just tell themselves that they were somewhere important once the plug does get pulled at some point. And it will at some point, let's be real. It's just that, for most of us, we have less and less time to play on the game. And once we do get on, we want to enjoy the game primarily for ourselves first, and everyone else later. It just takes the amount of dedication and self-discipline to put in effort into working with new players and or advertising discovery or is big. And it's not just Disco, it's any multiplayer game with the same sort of community structure. But the thing is, now, of course, I know what some of you might be thinking here, but it's a bit spazzy. You might say, surely Disco should be advertised to the people who play Freelancer primarily, because they will remember. But again, that's the whole thing regarding nostalgia. It just goes back to the whole nostalgia thing. So instead, I think that advertising Disco, and this is where I'm moving towards actual practical examples, promoting Disco in other gaming groups is a lost cause. It's not going to hurt, but that is not where your primary, primary player base is going to be. I think that Disco needs to be advertised in roleplay sectors, because roleplayers and people who are used to D&D and D&D-esque games, be it actual physical get-togethers or something like Roll20 encounters, they are used to using tools for the sake of roleplay, regardless of how archaic it is. And let's be completely fair. Freelancer in 2019 is archaic, and it needs to be treated as a tool. It's an amazing universe, it's an amazing backdrop to what we do here on Disco, but it needs to be not the selling point of Disco. And that's basically it. So that's kind of my take on this whole subject right now. I really think that one of the most concerning things in the short term for Disco, and I'm speaking out of my own ass right now because I haven't played Disco for 2 years and I haven't been following what's going on in Disco, but as far as I can tell from the recent discussion on Discord, is that you guys are suffering a huge duct in player activity. And that's kind of understandable because I remember worrying that the death of Disco is going to be that one particular point where the server population during peak times, or the overall time, is going to be so low that the people who log for the sake of roleplay and they want to see player encounters, they are going to be discouraged from logging, and then it is going to just snowball effect down into the dirt. And as far as I can understand, this is what is currently happening to you. I might be guessing here. I haven't checked the forums at all, so excuse me if that's not actually the case. I'm kind of just responding to a sort of thing with this video, but yeah, that's basically it. There are ways to fix this, and a contingency plan used to be in motion that, if required, we can turn Disco into essentially something similar to Space Station 13, where it is just, it's less of a game server, but an ongoing, like, a D&D campaign, right? Where the player numbers are small enough, but the familiarity between the players is what keeps it going, because it is going to kind of end up like that. It's just going to be a small handful of dedicated role players, which might actually not be that bad, but, well, it's not the Disco that we're currently used to, and I really hope that's not going to happen. But yeah, one of the more, well, again, drastic changes is to implement a sort of scene system where every 3 months the server population is forcibly relocated and restricted to some part of the universe map. So, for example, you have one trimester, I guess that's the word for it now. Well, 12 months, 12 months in the year, 3 months per session, 4 sessions in total, 1 year. And then you kind of swap between, like, one session is going to be for Liberty, one session is going to be for the Gallic War, and kind of make sure that the amount of players are artificially concentrated in some sort of thing. Now, of course, many people are fed up with Disco as it is, and this sort of drastic change might be taken as a excuse to just put the game aside. But that is, again, just something you kind of need to, consider with. But yeah, that is essentially my thoughts on the subject right now. I really think that if you guys are going to start promoting Disco, you need to not waste your time on promoting as a game. You need to start promoting as a constantly ongoing, perpetual D&D campaign with a space theme. This needs to be kind of like the focus on the promotional thing, because that way, if someone does check it out, it is going to be a role player. And they are going to stay for the roleplay, because let's face it, Disco is not really that engaging. For example, the video in the background, this video is 1 hour long. For a 30-year-old, an hour in the evening is a big deal. And if that hour consists of flying from A to B to get some credits, it's not really engaging. But yeah, so this was a bit of a rant video, I guess, and I don't know. Maybe now that I have a character on the server, I might check it out again, but yeah, let's face it, I still have much more. I have games that I'm currently invested in that aren't Disco. Disco currently just does not have the same appeal if you put them side by side, and I'm being completely honest about that, but, well, for some people, I know that Disco is a big deal for some people still, and I really hope that it is going to pull through. And if you guys are actually serious, that you want to put in effort, you want to take away from your free time, and you want to promote Disco, you want to attract new players, first of all, start using the goddamn ModDB section. Because I think that last time nobody voted on it. I think that nobody even noticed that people were voting there. And that is a place where we have established connections. Like, we are there and we have been there for a while. All of our stuff is there. I think that the server owners, whoever they are at this point, linking to the ModDB vote page when it happens again, that's not hard to do, right? I hope, because, again, that is just one type of free publicity where you don't really have to do anything to do. But, yeah. Yeah, that is basically all I wanted to say, I guess. This is a video that condenses the whole discussion that I had a few weeks ago. And the only reason why I'm currently making this video is because I kind of got into a disco mood after doing the Gregory Oliver video. So, yeah. Anyway, my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. Up to you. This is Spamsy Dragon, AK Syndromes. Fly safe.